Shout out to my Derby University students. The SU elections are going on right now. It's just derbyunion.co.uk/elections. I'm running for welfare and my slate partner is running for education. So please just go over to the website and check out our manifestos. We'd really love you to vote. And if you vote, you get entered into a £200 Amazon prize draw. So that should just be enough motivation for you to vote anyway. So my name's Samira. Please vote for me for welfare. Thank you.
So hello guys, my name is Imran Cisse, for those of you that don't know, and welcome to KultrShocK, the podcast where we talk about the culture and young people that are affected by it in the UK. So the topic today is toxic relationships, and with me today is...
Hi guys, I'm Samira.
Hi, my name's Wasik.
Hi, I'm Melanie.
Hi, I'm Mede.
I'm Isaac.
Hi, I'm Suman.
Hi, I'm Nick.
As you can see today, we have a pretty good cast, pretty big one as well. I just feel like that's the people that can represent all of us. So, toxic relationships. Have you guys encountered or experienced any in your long, healthy lives?
Well, I know people who have been in toxic relationships.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can't comment on that right now. But
Obviously, yeah. Keep it. What about you, Nick? How's it going with you? It's alright?
Yeah, this is a sticky one, not too much like this.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Well, we can all come in as anonymous.
Yeah.
We don't really need to shed our own. We can just give in. Do you get it?
We'll say hypothetical.
We
know someone that might
Because I was thinking, like, obviously, if you got someone there that you want to like make a shout out to, yeah, you were toxic. At least just send that one in, and then now you're famous. Now you're on YouTube. They can't clap back at you. So just get it, bash your head. But one of the many topics to do with toxic relationships is like cultural barriers. Obviously, we're all here from a different walk of life, and I feel that that plays some form of toll in the people that we choose to take in our lives. And although it may be good for some of us, and it may be good for other people as well that are of different walks of life, sometimes it may be a barrier that might cause a negative outcome in a relationship. In this segment, obviously, is toxic relationships. So, do you think that culture barriers do play a role in terms of a toxic relationship, or is there something else?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like with toxic relationships, we don't actually, well, it's weird how you don't realise it until you're out of the situation, or if you're looking at it from an outside point of view, you're like, yeah, that's completely toxic. So even in that in itself is toxicity. But in terms of like culturally, I think we have a lot of there's a lot of like systematic views or like deep cultural views on the actual gender roles, and I think that's one thing that can lead to the relationship in itself being toxic. Like you're in the kitchen. Me, I know when I was younger, my mum was always like, I'm in the kitchen cooking, why are you not with me? But my brother can be playing and that kind of thing. So, but I think with our age group, because we've all grown up, so whoever I marry now, like we definitely have to have a conversation about, you know, what kind of things are you expecting from me in just terms of like gender roles, because we live in a generation now where we actually, it's equal, you know, we're sharing and all that kind of stuff, but because of how they've seen their parents grow up and stuff, it can still have like underlying like expectations of what I'm supposed to be doing, so that can, you know, if not addressed early, can lead to toxic relationship.
Definitely, like what you're mentioning in terms of family, like what values do family put on you in terms of like how to pursue relationships. Sometimes it affects people more than it may seem on first starts. Like when you're younger, you probably see them just grooming you in probably a loving way or in a not so loving way, but I feel like for many people, for even some people, that can play a real toll on how you treat your partner and what you see your parents put on you. So like, is there any other things that you feel may contribute to a toxic relationship? Anything masculine or feminine or anything like that you guys feel that might?
I think generally the people's personalities, the actual person. Like sometimes people go into relationships with people that are so different from them, and they can never ever really work. Yeah. But they try to force it because of other things.
So is it like pressure? Like everyone's like romanticizing relationships, so you feel pressure to be in it, no matter like the circumstance, no matter the situation.
I feel like that's not the general case. I feel like people are attracted to the wrong people for them, and then they try to stick to those people.
I think people think they like a certain type of person until they get with that person and realise that's not the case.
I'm not about this life.
Yeah, exactly. And then they wonder how to get out of it, and that's when it becomes sticky, because now you've got feelings for this person. How do you get out of something toxic at that point? That's my point. But
yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those ones where like there's so many layers to it. It's not really something that you can really put your finger on. It's about like, it's half experience, and then also it's half like what you see other friends get up to as well, and other people that you see on the news, on the media and stuff like that. But recently I've been hearing like a lot of debates going on in terms of like, you know, who's the likely person in a partnership to probably, or the likely gender sometimes in a partnership to kind of present attributes that might lead to toxic relationships. Some people might play the neutral ground and say nobody, but sometimes, you know, it might be one person, it might be the other. So what do you guys personally think? Right, I'll go to everybody. So if someone has like, you feel like maybe there's qualities on a female that you feel that contributes to it, or qualities on a male that you feel may contribute to a toxic relationship. Like, what do you guys think in terms of that?
I'm just wondering, in terms of like jealousy in a relationship, are girls more prone to being jealous in a relationship, or are boys?
No, I don't think it's gendered. I don't think jealousy is gendered. I think it's the way the other person makes the other person feel. So I'm just going to use an example of two people in a relationship.
Yeah.
Someone out of the two is going to be more paranoid than the other. I don't think both people will be equally as paranoid or equally as insecure for whatever past they may have. So it's up to the person who is more secure in the relationship than the other person to kind of encourage and make sure that that person feels secure within their relationship, because you never know what their past is. That could either be the boy or either be the girl.
Yeah.
Now, in the instance of when girls seem to be more jealous.
Girls have that stereotype.
Yeah, that stereotype. I think it's because of the way females exercise their views, how they demonstrate how they feel and stuff like that. They're much more expressive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're more jealous. And also, I think in an example of that is that males, I'm not going to stereotype, they just don't always understand the woman and where she's coming from. So instead of him making it his job to make things right with the woman so she doesn't feel jealous, he'll kind of just leave it.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps on piling and piling and piling to the point where now she's just bursting and she's behaving in a crazy way.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's not the same thing. That's not how men would deal with the jealousy themselves. They just be more controlling.
They don't take the time to see it from the girl's point of view. Because obviously girls' brains are wired differently than boys. So I think they need to take the time to realise what it is that girls are going through and why we are jealous, and try to resolve that rather than like brush it under the carpet and just not do that one act again. Because it's, you know, you could be jealous of doing whatever, whatever else. But I think that's what men lack. I want them to be more understanding of the females and what we, the things that we girls get jealous about, why you're hanging out with so many different females, it's never, sometimes, half the time there's no issue there, but it's just in the girl's brain. But it's up to the guys to reassure the girl that there's nothing really going on.
But if you were to flip it, and it was the guy who was getting jealous over the girl, and then we would now say, he's controlling, he's this, he's that. The girl wouldn't reassure him as much, or even if she were to, it would be like, we're doing too much. Because one thing when he was speaking, it actually reminded me of we allow. Wait, you said about the jealousy, right? We allow, we give more leeway to females who are jealous than we do to males who are jealous, because I guess statistics show that when males are jealous, like they can be a bit more, it can be exaggerated or more radical about it, often leading to like domestic violence and those kind of things. Then we now come and shout, that relationship is toxic, and the female should walk away. However, when the roles are, switched, it's like it's almost justified for the female to be jealous. And females do mad stuff as well. I don't know if you remember the Patronus video when she smashed up the car and scratched it. Everyone was laughing about it.
Even the current thing that's on BBC that you saw recently of like male domestic abuse, like men getting hard, to the point wherein he's emotionally confused as well, because I've been hearing what you guys are saying, but there are some men that do contribute to their girls, and sometimes it's like what you're saying, it's more of the female side that can kind of bring in that domestic, that abusive nature to it, because of the overloading of emotions and all the jealousy and stuff like that. And sometimes men do try and put some form of effort in, but this world sometimes is just an L, like it just doesn't work out all the same. Sometimes you can be that sure, like loving and understanding and something like that, but it's never black and white, I would say.
I really enjoy the point of you guys talking about domestic abuse in relationships, and one thing that really doesn't get discussed as much is domestic abuse towards male victims in relationships. Like we see a lot of stuff about Me Too, but there is also the hashtag and the movement for Him Too. And 1 in 6 males will experience domestic abuse at some point. It's just statistics from the Mankind Initiative, and only 1 in 20 men will report it.
Yeah.
But why not a lot of media?
Why do you think that is? Because let's say
masculinity, but there's a misunderstanding in a culture of how does a male get abused in a relationship? Surely he's a man, he can't have violence towards him.
You know, girls tend to be more mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
manipulate the guys, control. Like, I don't want you seeing this girl. I don't want you doing this girl. And you gotta listen.
Or the ones wherein like they demonstrate one element of love to you on one half, but they'll be telling you with the quickness, like you'll be having a normal day, you come home, the relationship should end, and you'll just be sitting there like, what? And then you try and like go through all of that trauma of being heartbroken, and she'll come back to you and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I want to do this, I want to start things again, I want the relationship to continue, and then the next time you turn around, boom, I want the relationship to end. And I've been seeing some really, really good guys lately go through that type of cycle wherein they're being pulled around, and their boys do come through like, yo, like, leave her, innit, like, go. And it can happen to females as well a lot. Like,
why do you think the females are doing that though? Why do you think the females are constantly coming back and saying, oh, I want to be with you and I don't want to be with you? Because I personally feel like it may seem that I don't know if I'm being biased, but I think women think a lot more. Like we think, we process things a lot more. We talk a lot, but we think a lot more than talking. And for a woman to just go through that whole up and down, it might be a conflict within herself, and you never know what she must not feel secure in that relationship and what he's giving to her to always kind of like be like, well, I don't want to be with you. Then I want to be with you, because then she might still be in love with him, but then at the end of the day, they're not working. Maybe he's not the perfect partner for her.
It's just out of fear. Like half the time you don't want to lose that person. Half the time you worry if you've made a mistake leaving them. You know, because they probably aren't going to be horrible 100% of the time. So, and it's just not the effort, but like the stress of and the fear of having to go find somebody new. It's just a long process. So you'd rather go back to that person again in hopes that he's learned his lesson, or they, you know, fix themselves in a certain way. And then they never change, and you find yourself in the same cycle again.
Have you heard that statement, females break up with men way before they actually break up with them?
Yeah.
So I think,
once you start thinking, you know, you want to end this relationship, you've got your answer. You've
tried A to Z, everything.
But guys, do you go through some level of, because in terms of the male side, do you guys feel like when it comes to relationships, when it comes to that running cycle, that you see or maybe witness or experience anything that you feel that it's more harder to break them than usual, like in terms of that cycle that they've just explained of like, maybe she's not for me or he's not for me, maybe he's not committed? Do you feel like that can be broken in any way? Or?
Sometimes it can, but generally it's such a small thing, but people forget what would have caused the toxicity, and it happens to be like a dual process when like one person does something, it causes the other one to respond in a certain way, and then it causes that cycle that you guys have been talking about, and then it will go to such an extreme stage. It's kind of hard to go back, because like you guys mentioned, domestic violence and stuff like that. I don't know how certain people go back from it, but people do. But if you've been hit in a relationship, automatically from that point onwards, I don't believe personally it can ever not be toxic, because you'll always have that in the shadow. But then obviously, again, being hit in a relationship, that's now a new thing, and it's being demonized now more because women are not allowed to be hit. But then in the past, it wasn't really domestic violence, so there's a cultural change. So if a woman gets hit now, she's more likely to leave. But then before, if a woman goes back to her parents' house and says, I got hit, she'll just stay there for a week and stuff, like resume and then go and say sorry to the husband for what she did and stuff, which is completely different to what we're living now.
It's still even like that in certain in other cultures. It's still like that. That you know, domestic abuse is not. It's not seen as domestic abuse. If your husband hits you, it must be justified.
Yeah. So would you say like toxicity within relationships is very much subjective? Because what could be going on in Meda's relationship that I'll say, oh, it's toxic, in mine, I wouldn't think, because that's what I like. So would you, there's not like one rule for toxic relationships?
And that's what I was going to also say as a different point, that comparison is what makes a toxic relationship. When you compare your relationship to someone else's and what someone else is doing, whether that be good or bad, then you're kind of also affecting your relationship. And if you're constantly doing that, not saying that you can't look at other relationships and try and implement good ideas into your relationship, but you're not the same as that other couple. And so you should have your own thing going on. And that whole subjectiveness in toxicity is, it's kind of like, let's just deal with our problems. Let's just deal with what we've got going on rather than keep on looking at what other people are doing. Or because someone says that, oh, that's toxic, it must be toxic. It might not be to you. You don't find it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it's a very, very good point, but it is sometimes important to look outside of your relationship to kind of guide you to what is normal. Because if you just say, okay, I'm just going to do me and do my relationship, you will be completely blinded from what is normal. Okay, there's no normal, but if you're...
sometimes you can't see that you're in a toxic relationship.
That's what I said, but too much comparison and too much looking outside of your relationship breeds toxicity in your own. So it's kind of like, you can look at what's going on, but you just need to...
Definitely. Touching on your point as well, do you reckon that sometimes the way, because obviously having an identity within your relationship is important, because when there are toxic elements, you're able to identify that based on how you both interact and behave with each other. But do you reckon, like, given in this generation, in the UK especially with our young adults, we're very connected to the media, like how we interact in socials and stuff, all the time, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, it's always going to be like people talking about, oh, this is how their relationship is run. People are always displaying their relationships out forward. In the media, we're always exposed to different celebrities and stuff like that in terms of how they interact with their relationships. So do you reckon there's always a facade that kind of builds to, because you're saying that everybody deserves their own individual identities in terms of their relationships, but do you reckon, therefore, that the media kind of tries to undermine what you're saying by saying this is what a relationship is? So that when everyone tries pursuing that, it just goes...
100%. If you even see, like, for example, if you go on Young Kings TV or like, all these type of popular like meme pages, and they say something, just, it doesn't even have to be relationship-wise, they say, oh, people who put milk before cereal are crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Or put the cereal before the milk, which one's correct? It gets people thinking, oh, am I weird? Like, what they'd be doing like their whole life, they're now questioning it because 60,000 people have liked the tweet that says people who put milk in their cereal first are crazy. But do you know what I mean? So it's like, if that's just an example of something small, it's happening in relationships as well. If someone says, oh, if your man's doing this and your man's doing that, and there's a quote about that, and it's got so many likes about it, you might not start to question your relationship and what's going on.
Because so many people are thinking that.
And that breeds toxicity, which is why I was trying to say too much outsourcing and thinking that what you're doing. Have your own identity and have your own security in your relationship and know what it is. So you can't be easily swayed by that.
It's like with the waves and like, oh, I'm looking for a guy with waves with the grey tracksuit bottoms and the white Air Forces.
What's going on now?
With the AirPods and the full connect beard and that.
Do you know what? Do you know what used to annoy me? I can't remember. Remember when everyone was doing those videos, what to leave in 2018? And people saying, oh, boys who have long hair or high tops.
It stinks.
I was like, as soon as that became like a
Well,
thing,
they
these
cancelled.
high tops, it's like literally everyone left high tops. Like,
Yeah.
how can you be influenced that much? Like, Will Smith is so iconic about the high tops. It's like,
Exactly.
as soon as someone said that Will Smith is like, no, forget high tops now, like, everyone actually forgot about it.
And everyone's calm, pretty much. And people that don't, you build like, even though you don't mean to, you build that natural look to them, like.
That's childish.
Yeah.
But then that's like you gotta look in the mirror and be like, come on, like. In the end of the day, it's not that deep. But that's how much influence the media has. I feel like
The alpha male
that
thing's
same
trending
energy.
as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
definitely.
So like everyone's looking for an alpha male, but then they fail to realise that there's alpha females as well, in a way. And then if they're looking for this sort of person as well, yeah, it won't create a good balance.
Clash.
Yeah, there's a clash. And then it's just really bad.
But the alpha male thing, talking on that, there's like that just serves to like masculinity in general. So masculinity, we all have encountered, experienced, seen it. What do you guys think in terms of how it plays in terms of a toxic relationship? What masculine qualities do you feel in a toxic relationship is kind of like
Obsessiveness, controlling, feeling like they're always right.
Yeah.
And ego is a big
Ego.
But you guys,
Elaborate on that.
You
What
guys
do
are just describing psychopathic traits.
You know, an ego is,
Psychopathic traits.
an ego is just a normal thing, but I feel like an ego, especially when you're out with your brethren and stuff, and you're seeing all your friends doing bits, and you're in a relationship, and you're thinking, raw, am I out here just watching these man do the thing and I'm flexing? That's gonna play in your mind, and then when you get home, you're just gonna be vexed about everything, like, and then you're gonna take it out on your girl. That's how some niggas think. Oh, sorry, I don't know.
No, it's fine.
Alright, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's good. You need that getting.
Yeah, that's how some people think. You get me? But it is what it is.
What about you guys? What qualities do you think? We've got ego and stuff like that. What do you think?
I guess in general, a lot of guys don't express their own emotions in relationships, whether it be with their own male friends or with their partners.
True facts.
I feel like males tend to like be more enclosed when it comes to like opening up to a female, and I don't know if they don't talk to their boys, like asking for like advice or whatever. But yeah, so it's like, for example, if a girl has an issue with them or they're trying to resolve something, it's like he's not really sure what he's doing, kind of thing, and it's like if he's not sure what to do, she's just gonna be like, he's not serious about the relationship, kind of thing. So that's how I see it, to be honest.
Touching on that, yeah, I do feel like the platform is starting to change. I feel like a lot of boys like talking a lot.
Well,
I'm one stupid example. I like
But I think the girls talking causes a lot of toxicity as well. When your friend doesn't want you to be in that relationship, and that's the one that you're going for advice to, and then
when you get in so for example, if you get in an argument with your man and then you go to your girl and say, like me and my man had an argument, your girls are going to influence you to let him go because they're like, no, he's not worth it, or this and that. It's going to carry on. Like, they're basically going to encourage you to carry on the...
If you go into some supportive friends and you're going to talk about, it's a way to get it off your chest and see, maybe are you going crazy? Is it real? Am I making a bigger deal out of this issue than what it is? Like, it's just a way of just having a chat with the girls and just seeing what way to. Well, that's what I do.
guys. I just want to highlight, when you're storytelling, everyone biasly tells stories.
In a way
So obviously your friends, when they're hearing certain stories that you tell, they're going to obviously get a negative light. So they're going to advise you based on that negativity. So then you're going to go to your man or whatever with that negativity that they've advised you. But obviously you have the good feeling, the good times that you guys had here. But you're going to go in that particular moment with that, and then that's going to be the toxicity. So he's going to ask you questions. You're going to be like, what's wrong? Why do you know? And all that shit. And that's literally it.
And I think when we were talking about girls like sharing with their girls like what's going on and stuff like that, I personally think that one, you should only have one or two friends that
yeah, you're not going around town.
Yeah, one or two friends that you know are quite level-headed and would actually give you, some real advice. And also the other thing is that not having too many opinions on your situation, because one thing I've also noticed is that your friends won't forgive your boyfriend for what he's done, but you'll forgive your boyfriend. So if you don't want your friends to end up like disliking your boyfriend, then you shouldn't always be telling them everything that's going on in your relationship.
You don't talking is dangerous.
You're not going to tell them the good things that's going on, like, really and truly. You only tell them that if you keep on doing that, then your friends are going to have this negative view on your boyfriend, and it's kind of like, oh, you just don't like him. Of course I don't like him, because you've only told me bad things. So also that you should limit how much you actually say, I personally believe, and what you should tell them, and what goes on, because not all your friends are going to always have your back like that.
Definitely.
Just tell the story better. Tell the whole story. Tell the things that you did that were wrong as well. That might have made him respond in this way. If you do that, they might be able to give you good advice. That's not going to.
A good friend will always ask, "But what did you do?"
Yeah.
A good friend will always ask that.
But in the heat of the moment, like, you're just gonna say everything based on
But
what
then,
the guy has done.
definitely, and that serves into the masculinity thing, because most boys will kind of be telling their other boys like, fair enough, a man comes to me and tells me, oh, she did this and that, and I told her, man, go. So then the boys will be like, yeah, we support that, like 100%, fam, you should have done this and that. But on a low, they'll be telling their own boys like, yo, what man was a bit crazy still. And you can see the masculinity there, like, we can't even tell each other face off like what you're doing is wrong, or what you're doing is a little bit.
Why do you think that is though?
Because it's the fear of like what you mentioned, ego is spot on. Everybody has their own type of facade. With boys, it's almost like with certain boys, I won't say it's all boys, but with certain boys, it's to do with like how you leave your mark in terms of your friends, the world, in everything that you do. Most of us just naturally like doing that. But that kind of gets questioned, and your integrity within your group, in terms of protection, in terms of care, in terms of like, just security and everything like that. Almost like a wolf pack in a way. If one shows a form of weakness in any form, they won't trust that one to go up hunting. So when it comes to the same way here, if that one guy is viewed in a certain type of way because, he's not dealing with things effectively, they're not gonna, you yourself are gonna be very cut short from a lot of things compared to the other guys that have been keeping it stern, that haven't shown any sign of weakness and stuff like that. It's bad, but it's something that just happens sometimes.
So then male friendships are more likely to be toxic than female friendships?
In some capacity.
Because when you guys were talking about the friendships and stuff, I thought it's very different because I already know that the dynamics between a female friendship and a male friendship are different. In terms of girls, we can like meet each other and hit it off straight away with saying our experiences or whatever, and then like building a friendship quite quickly. It could obviously work to our disadvantage because a lot of people will do like bitching or whatever. And then with males, there's more of like hey brother, you're right, spud them, whatever, you see them that's not really my boy, but it's like, I know him kind of thing. Whereas the other girls will be like, oh yeah, that's my friend. Like,
I met 5 seconds ago.
You lot make friendships in toilets and you should see a man's toilet, it's silent. No eye contact. Otherwise,
you only talk to uncle sometimes.
And it's always when you're washing your hands. It's like they come talk to you like, what are you doing? But girls, it's like you lot make like everlasting bonds. I'll never understand. But that just goes to show the social.
Yeah, but I was going to say that it does work to a strength in some aspect, because when you do break that barrier and you've been through like certain things, and if you are like one-to-one with your boys, I feel like they do give good advice, and because they've got like that strong friendship, they won't sugarcoat everything you do. They'll be like, oh, but you did a bit wrong though, but do your thing. Like they'll still tell you. So I feel like that's quite beneficial on your part. However, if you have a group of men who's like, you all have the same mentality of you just want to go out and whatever, anything that's holding them back from like moving together as one. I don't know if you get what I mean. They'll be more in a rush to get rid of the girl. Like you don't need her, man. Can't like do all these kind of things. Whereas with the girls, they kind of want the man, so they'll be like, oh, so why don't you do this? The type of advice is different. Depending on if you're a female and if you're a man.
And we don't give out, I feel like we don't give out critical advice as well. We give out just a straight out bland thing, but we would expect it when it comes to us. So in certain aspects, it's like when for example you're like, oh, leave her, then we don't realize as men what that effect has on that guy.
Yeah.
Because his problem is very complex. We're not dealing with a complexity. We're giving him a simple answer: leave it. So when he does something and it ends up going to hell, but then us that are giving that dumb advice, we would want something like quick, like we would appreciate some form of like, yo, listen, this and this, explain this, and then when you should explain, okay, sort this out. I feel like we don't dish out that type of energy that we need to get over these type of problems. And masculinity plays a big part in that.
You can lose friends with dishing out good advice, you know. You can lose friends with.
But it's the truth though. Sometimes it's the truth.
Yeah, but people's honesty is not always practical. Some people's honesty is like you can be honest, and there's beauty in having an honest friend, because they're better than having people that just like lie to you and want to see you do bad. But then again, there's some friends that are like, they're not proactive. They're very like, oh yeah, honestly, yeah, what you did was crap. Like, okay, but are you gonna? Is that it? Are you gonna tell me what to do? Or like, you might not even know what to like what I should do. But if you're not gonna give me anything on top of that, instead, because now it's just you're just criticizing me. You're not helping me. You might as well just kept your mouth quiet. And it's just more. Yeah.
So is it more so the delivery? Is it more so the delivery? Or
It's not even about. Even if they said it in what you did was wrong, and they said it in that nicest possible way, that's not.
Like, and then it's like,
then what? Like, so what?
So
what was the point of you saying that if you've got nothing else to back it up? What you did was wrong. How do you know what I did was wrong? Then why are you coming with that judgment? Because I feel like when everybody says something and says their honest opinion about something, there's always a backstory to why they're saying what they're saying. But some people hate and they'll be your friends, the haters. They'll just be like, oh yeah, what you did was wrong still. Okay. But they want to get, you never know, they probably have wanted you to get to that space where you did something wrong, because they're enemy of progress is. Like, they don't want to see you do that. They don't. And sometimes those are your friends.
I was just going to say, but sometimes people's advice might be what isn't right for you. You know what I mean? Like, they can they can sit there and give you what they think is true, what they think you should do, blah, 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 but that might not work for you in your relationship. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I think people need to know themselves first, need to know their partner, need to know what kind of relationship they're even in to sort out your own problems. You know, I think communication is a big thing. You have to talk to the other person. You're not a mind reader. You know, I'm not going to know exactly what he's thinking. He's not going to know what I'm thinking. So in terms of them, communication, I think, lack of is toxic. Yeah. When no one's talking, when no one's, you know, being honest with each other, no matter what it is you're talking about, I think you have to talk in order to get anything resolved, to get anything, like, you know, it's good and well being like, oh, sorry, blah, 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 brush under the carpet, move on. You're still carrying that, nothing's been resolved. Do you see what I'm saying? And then it builds up and it builds up and then you can't take it anymore.
Yeah, when the energy isn't equal, that was just like, when one's committing more.
Like, one thing's going to lead to another, you're going to start having doubts, you're going to start second guessing things that aren't even there. Like,
you start presuming things to yourself without confining with your partner, because you'll be like, oh, maybe because I always talk to him and he never responds, I won't talk to him at all. Maybe that's that one time that he actually needs to be spoken to. You don't do it because the lack of communication is just else for everyone. I know you wanted to say something before they said something. You forgot it. Because you were about to, I can feel that energy coming. But anyways, talking on that one, obviously masculine traits can sometimes prove to toxic relationships. But what about female traits? Do you feel like there's some certain aspects in the feminine spectrum that can sometimes contribute to a relationship being toxic? Yeah. Would you like to elaborate on some? Is there one in your head that's just kind of like telling, say your truth, say it?
Do you know what? Sometimes I get shut down for this, but this is a point, like, I don't know, I just feel very
You're in a safe zone. No, let's do the Oprah thing.